constant flooding everywhere, but not to worry. We'll be giving you all the updates on where to, which roads to use, and the kind of weather that you expect today. This is the Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Ndimuli. How hot is the coffee where you are? It's
a wonderful Wednesday. I'm usually standing in Ringita, and as he says, we're doing a whole spot check around some bits of Nairobi, and we'll be telling you which parts to avoid, some parts of Maruroi, some parts of Zimmerman. Not looking quite great. Ukiingia pale before you get into Githurai as well. All that roads, all those roads are just looking flooded, all that. Anyway, Karibu Sana will be telling you all that. It's a Wednesday. We'll be getting into your relationships and giving you relationships tips. Hii itakuwa moto leo today.
Unga sana relationship is washed away by floods.
Oh yes, and obviously Testy Wednesday at the very tail end of the show, so stick around for that.
All right, a quick look at the headlines this morning. And do we have the papers? Yes.
There you have it.
All right.
So we can start with the Daily Nation.
Daily Nation. On the Daily Nation, Azimio demands Ogolla inquest is a big headline this morning. Still going on with the discussions around the helicopter crash last Thursday. That's the main headline this morning. We do have, okay. Let's go back to the... Okay, a very interesting headline on the front page of the People Daily. The shame of stealing from dead soldiers. And this is the same story from the chopper crash. And apparently, immediately after the crash, those first responders made away with boots, watches, and other valuables from there. And, okay. We've seen the Daily Nation on business.
Daily. Kenya seeks US support in fresh hand for cheap loans. I'll be diving into that matters, the debt guarantees to de-risk the country when borrowing. On to the next.
Ogolla Azimio ya kaba serikali. Upinzani wataka vikao vya hadhara badala ya uchunguzi wa siri kuhusu ajali ya ndege. Habari ile kuu ambayo watu wengi wanazungumzia.
On to the Standard. Doctors deal breaker, and they've pictured there Felix Kuskei, head of public service, health CS Susan Akumecha, as well as KMPDU Secretary General, will be telling you what they are saying and what the medics are saying.
Issues of flooding also making it to the front pages as well. On the front page of the Star, fixing IEBC experts call for strong agency. Proposed law does not solve power play between chair and the CEO, but also just on the front page of the Star, matters to do with flooding, and very interesting. I've seen a guy in a suit there on a boat. Nikubaya nakwambia.
Nikubaya.
Let's cross the border into Uganda, and we have the Daily Monitor.
They say MPs save UNRA in fight over mergers. UNRA is a Uganda National Roads Authority. It's the equivalent of Kura
or Kenya.
Yes.
And yes, there's a man there on the front page of the Daily Monitor who's been chasing for his pension for 28 years. Same problem as in Kenya. This is something very common in Kenya as well. So yes, more or less mirroring what is happening in the country. Yes, and you do have the new vision. Museveni explains new tax measures, and I told you, whatever happens in Kenya, it crosses over the border into Uganda. And yes, President's full statement on traders' concerns. There have been concerns over the kind of taxation measures introduced by President Museveni in recent times.
Into Tanzania, kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi, kifo.
I think let's start with the Citizen.
Yeah, right, there you have it.
Right. Urban planning, drainage inadequacies, fuel flooding. And in Kenya we are complaining. It is the same story across the region.
Yes.
You see what's happening in Tanzania, whatever is happening in Uganda as well is happening in Kenya. On the front pages, matters flooding everywhere. And it's the same problem. Urban planning and drainage inadequacies.
And today, Fred, you're going to see more of these pictures in Nairobi, in different parts of the country. People just walking in water, literally.
If you look at the front page of Mwananchi, that's the next one, yes. Kifo cha utata is a big headline, but if you go down there, mvua zaleta majanga zaidi. If you can just scroll, yes. Serikali yatenga bilioni moja shilingi za Tanzania. I don't know how much that is. But yes, exactly as you're saying. Watu wanabebwa pale kwenye maji. Bodaboda na daladala bado zashughulika. Kuna watu wanafanya biashara. za kuvusha watu.
Shilingi 20, shilingi 10 na yoyote pale.
So matters flooding, it's a common theme across the region. I'll be looking at these dailies for you in a short while. Let's now take a look at the traffic situation. And I do not know why today your technology is a bit poor. So as it loads, this one is taking time to load.
But zoom in to see.
Yes, much better, yes. much better. Leave it there.
I always got you relax.
Okay. A bit of concern on Thika Road, which is a main tributary into town. You can see bits of red and even maroon in some parts. Yes? This is China Square. Maroon means it's a total standstill on the road. Yes, bits and pieces of red means a slowdown, yellow as well, a bit of traffic. And you can see as far back as the Ruiru bypass, then immediately after that, as you come down towards Kenyatta University past China Square, Kahawa and Dani stage, there's a bit of red there. So if you're heading to town, between Ruiru and Githurai, there is a snarl up somewhere. We are not sure if it has anything to do with the floods. But yes, a bit of red just opposite the Kenyatta University. Beyond there, a bit of red at Githurai, but on the opposite direction.
Now, on this part, the Githurai bit, we were talking to a few drivers before we came into the office, and they were saying some of this particular place has flooded on the roads. So it is quite prudent to be very cautious when you're using this, when you're just getting into Githurai and areas around Githurai.
Yes, because you can see there's also traffic heading outside, away from Nairobi, around Githurai. So yes, there's something happening around Githurai. If you can avoid it, please do. And around Kenyatta University as well. You can see a bit of red there. Further down, past Kasarani, all the way past Garden City Mall, it's much better, nothing much to report there. Past KCA University, the Utali Drift, Mathare Mental Hospital, a bit of a slowdown, of course, as you expect when you come to the Muthaiga interchange and into Pangani, but that is to be expected because of the bottleneck that forms when Kiambu Road and Thika Road meet. Kiambu Road is not looking so bad this morning, all the way from Kiambu town, past Edenville, past Quickmart, Ndigwa, past Ridgeways, Karura Forest, DCI. It's all green as at now, so nothing to report. Everything is good. A bit of a slowdown as you get to Pangani, and we had mentioned that after. But after that, you could use Muranga Road into town or Wangari Maathai Road into town. So far, so good. Let's take a look at Jogoo Road.
Oh, yes.
And yes, a bit of a problem here. At Makadara.
A very long.
And this is so early in the morning to have such a problem on Jogoo Road, because you can see all the way from Outer Ring Road interchange coming all the way, it's green, but once you get to Makadara, it turns red. And it's only at 6 a.m. Yes, this bit, and it's quite a stretch from Makadara all the way to that St. Stephen's Church roundabout. So here, expect a bit of a slowdown, a number of vehicles there, and if you can avoid this, because it's still so early in the morning to have such kind of traffic on Jogoo Road. So if you can avoid that, please do. Yes, once you pass the St. Stephen's roundabout, a bit of yellow, then bits of red and yellow once you get to the City Stadium roundabout. And so Jogoo Road not looking very good at this time of the morning. Elsewhere, I think, but this has to do with the roundabouts. Okay, let's take a look at Mombasa Road, which could also be...
Some bits of it also.
Yeah, parts of the expressway from Lolongo, a bit of yellow, just meaning there's a slowdown, not really standstill. Bits of red once you get to about General Motors. Yes, General Motors should be around here. Past Cabanas, past Imara Daima. A bit of a slowdown around GM area, but after that it's going smoothly all the way into town. Nothing much to report all the way into town. All right, the other one is Langata Road. And Langata Road, so far so good. It looks green all the way past
just before you hit the hills. Wilson.
Oh yes, but of course once you get towards the T-Mall roundabout, that's where the problems start. You can see bits of red opposite, directly opposite the Wilson Airport. So a bit of a slowdown there. This is Mbagathi Way. And Mbagathi Way, okay, heading up from T-Mall towards City Mortuary, it's green. But going down the other direction, bits of yellow and red once you get closer to the roundabout at T-Mall. So yes, if you're using Mbagathi Way, be a bit careful. There have been reports of flooding in that area as well because of the river that passes around there. Ngong Road is looking good. All the way past Prestige Mall, plus past City Mortuary roundabout, nothing much to report from there. Everything is good so far. The other major tributary into town is Wayakiwe. And Wayakiwe all the way from Kino, past Kabete is looking good, past New Loresho Estate, past the ABC place, a bit of red somewhere here. But this is after Westlands, I think. Yes. Wow. Bits and pieces of red somewhere, but not much to report. After that, after the Westlands interchange, all the way into town, it's looking good. So far, I think Jogoo Road is a main concern this morning. For those using Jogoo Road, be on the lookout. That's the traffic this morning. And also parts of Thika Road as well, just before you hit Githurai, parts of Roosters as well around there, and those subsidiary roads on that. And also to ask motorists to be courteous to other road users as well, because there are so many pools and ponds of water. Just be considerate, because there are many pedestrians heading to work. Avoid splashing water onto guys. Mtu amevaa suti, amechapilia suti, alafu unakuja unamwagia maji. Sio vizuri, hata anaenda kazi. Sio vizuri. Let's just be courteous to everyone. Let's take a look at the weather. This is according to the Kenya Meteorological Department. Just take a look at now Nairobi Metropolis forecast, saying to anticipate the moderate to heavy, possibly very heavy rainfall across multiple areas within the metropolis. And well, as they were actually saying, it is definitely as it has happened. Let's click on one of these metropolis and see how things are looking like. Westlands, Dagoretti areas and all that, just as you're taking a look at it. Uthiru, the very north to the end, getting into Roysambu. So the 80 plus millimeters. So these are the areas where we expect a lot of the rain. A lot of the rainfall, yes. Okay. Yes. And then the green, moderate a bit, between 50 to around 20 millimeters. That is of Embakasi and Kasarani there. Yes. Bid between 35 to around 50. Areas of Embakasi South, Embakasi East are getting into Kamukunji as well. And Langata as well. And Langata as well. That is how around Nairobi looks like for the weather. But you can definitely also take a look at how it is feeling like. They say 17. Let me refresh that to get the latest. Yes, 17 degrees Celsius. Now this is majorly for most of the Nairobi. 90% precipitation, that is quite high. It will definitely rain today. So from the morning all the way. All the way, the whole day. Leo kuna ile ati kubahatisha or something. Lazima utabeba umbrella. Leo kuna kubahatisha. Oh yes. Beba tu mwavuli. That is how things are looking like, and majorly in most parts of the country as well. Be guided. That is on the weather for you this morning. Tuingie kwenye magazetini sasa. Okay.
Na safari hii katika
I think amekuwa caught up na hii maneno ya floods, so hajafika bado, so we'll rely on what we have online. And we have the front page of the Daily Nation. Azimio demands Ogolla inquest. That's a big story there on the front page of the Daily Nation. Memorial service for General Ogolla scheduled for Friday has been put off indefinitely. The family said that they agreed with the military to put off that for now. They'll announce a different date. But in as far as the main story is concerned, the demand for inquest, opposition leaders yesterday upped the ante on calls for thorough investigations to unearth the cause of the tragic helicopter crash that claimed the lives of Chief of Defense Forces Francis Ogolla and 9 others last week, with a fresh push to set up a public judicial inquiry. More or less what we saw with the George Saitoti case. And they've covered this on pages 4 and 5. So more discussions about what happened on that fateful Thursday when that chopper crashed, and now the fresh demands. But the main story, given prominence away from matters, the chopper crash on the front page of the Daily Nation, is to do with flooding. And this, I think, is the biggest discussion point right now. Matters weather. Oh, yes. On all the front pages of the dailies this morning, we have issues to do with flooding. It is not, as I had someone say somewhere, tigodeke.
Loosely translated to?
To mean it is gagna gagna. Maneno imekuwa ngumu. So nothing to smile about. And underwater is a headline, Kenyans in agony amid heavy floods, and they have an image there on the front page of the Daily Nation. This is what, imagine waking up to this, yes? Oh, yeah. Probably you live even on the 4th or 3rd floor, but you parked your car down there.
And you're looking at the balcony, you're seeing...
Of course, anyone who lives on the ground floor is already messed up.
Oh, yes.
But even if you live on any upper floors, how do you access your house? And this, I think, is the case in most apartment blocks in Syokimau and Mlolongo area. And most people have had to be evacuated from their own homes because they cannot even access their own vehicles.
At this point, you really have to even work at home.
And I think this image was taken at 360 degrees estate in Syokimau, which is in Machakos County. Yes, many people who work in Nairobi live there, and many people do not know that they actually live in Machakos.
Anasema mimi naishi Nairobi.
Naishi Nairobi. Other highlights on the front page, Chebukati fails to make cut in hiring of appellate judges. Former IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati's bid to join the judiciary as an appeal judge has hit a dead end after missing out on the Judicial Service Commission shortlist released yesterday. And we have an image there of the former IEBC chairperson who was hoping to become a judge of the Court of Appeal. On the very top strip of the Nation today, how Homa Bay County is winning the war against killer malaria. And I think the governor continues to receive a lot of accolades on her handling of issues in Homa Bay. But matters doctor strike making it to the front page of the Daily Nation. This is a big talking point as well. Cabinet rules out increased salaries for intern doctors. And yes, they apparently agreed on all the 18 out of 19. Yes. It's only on the interns issue that they failed to agree, and the strike because of that enters its 42nd day today.
Haki kwa daktari Mkenya lipa kama CS, lipa kama deni.
Yeah, going back to the flooding story, I'm telling you. Lipa kama CS. Yes. More images of the floods and people almost walking naked just to make it through and salvage some of the properties from flooded areas on pages 2, 3, and 4 of the Daily Nation. That's the Daily Nation this morning.
Let's continue the whole coverage of these floods for you and just taking a look at how things are looking like. Now, this is the Standard. They're saying flooding havoc as heavy rains pound the country. That's not a big story, really. But then just getting to tell you how Kenya's unpreparedness in the face of heavy rains pounding various parts of the country has been exposed, with raging flood waters submerging houses, cutting off roads, and damaging millions worth of property. More is on page 18. And insert there picturing a house which was submerged in Mobina Estate, that is in Joska, as the heavy rains continue to wreak havoc across many parts of the country as of yesterday, and also expect that on today. The big story, however, is the doctor's deal breaker, and they said disagreement over what medical interns should be paid sank a return to work formula negotiated by striking doctors and the government, with the authorities saying they have agreed on all but one of 19 demands by health practitioners, extending Kenyans' suffering. More on pages 4 and 5 on the quotations. We'll be getting that on the State of the Nation at around 6:30 with your panelist, a heavy panel this morning. Azimio wants independent Ogolla inquiry is another story. The right scroll, they say Azimio leaders demand both a parliamentary inquiry and a judicial inquest into the helicopter crash that killed General Francis Ogolla and 9 others. That is on page 6. At the very top, real quick, just taking a look at other stories. At the very top scroll, party politics wrote at City Hall, you're a letdown. UDA MPs warn Sakaja. Wow. It has got into that.
Imefika hapo.
British to engage the Maasai is on page 7. And into the business pages, pain of expensive loans. Into sports news, Barca coach hits out at La Liga. Walicharazo na Real Madrid over the weekend. Oh, yes. But I knew that.
Speaking of kucharaza, jana usiku kulikuwa na game moja safi in London. Proper London derby.
I knew you wouldn't let
Arsenal versus Chelsea. And I tell you, wow.
I missed that too. I missed watching that.
Mabao 5 bila jibu. Nakwambia Arsenal sahi
hamshikiki.
Hatushikiki. Tumeketi kwenye meza. Kileleni, wasema wameketi kileleni.
Reminds me of that video of the Tanzanian coach saying, I'm about to.
I'm about to.
I'm about to. And that is a standard for you. On to the next paper.
Okay, Taifa Leo kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo wanazungumzia masuala ya ajali ya ndege iliyoelekea kufariki kwa mkuu wa majeshi Generali Francis Ogola. Wanasema azimio ya kaba serikali. Upinzani wataka vikao vya hadhara badala ya uchunguzi wa siri kuhusu ajali ya ndege. Pressure, Raila na wenzake wataka kamati ya pamoja ya wabunge iundwe kuchunguza hadharani kiini cha ajali ya ndege ya wiki jana. Pia wapinga jopo la kijeshi lililobuniwa na Rais Ruto. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Vidokezo zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Chebukati azuiwa kuwa jaji. Liverpool kwingine masuala ya spoti. Ratilini leo Inter The Reds wazuru Everton huku Inter wakishinda Milan na kutoa taji. Na kwingineko serikali yatishia matabibu. Pale juu pasta apoteza watoto 3 ajali ya boti Baringo. Na kwingineko Kenya yazama kwa mafuriko na habari kuu pale. Na picha hii imetumika pia kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Daily Nation. Picha yenyewe iko pale pia kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Tuangazie gazeti lingine.
On to the Star. More focus on the floods. And at the very bottom, before we get into the big news, because largely this is the big news for today. They say Kenyans stranded as rains batter country, flooding persists, just showing different parts of the country. That is how things are looking like. But the big story, fixing IBC experts call for strong agency. Can take a look at a final one here. On to Business Daily.
All right, on Business Daily, Kenya seeks US support in fresh hand for cheap loans. We have an image there of the CS for Treasury, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u. Treasury asks the US to support in liability management. Maswala ya deni tu pale ukurasa wa mbele wa Business Daily. Kwingineko, Hilton owners mal-converting building to retail hub and hostels. You remember we've been talking about what do you do with the Hilton building after the hotel closed. The initial proposal was, let it be the equivalent of Bunge Towers, but for the members of the county assembly. They said no, it doesn't look nice. So now the owners are looking to convert it into kawaida exhibition halls. That's on the front page of the Business Daily. Other highlights, 9-month taxes trail target by 336 billion shillings despite IMF reforms. Elsewhere, NCBA ups interest on new and existing loans. And pressure to keep high rates as 369 billion shillings debt matures. That's the front page of the Business Daily. I think we need to look at People Daily as well because it has a very interesting headline. Yes, that one. The shame of stealing from dead soldiers. That's a big headline. And this is one of the untold stories coming from that tragic accident on Thursday at the border of West Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet. As the journeys of gallant military men came to a tragic end in helicopter crash, fast responders made away with valuables, including watches, phones, and boots. And you remember when the military said they had actually handed the wedding ring from the late CDF Francis Ogola back to the family. Yeah. And the indication was that that was the only thing they were able to retrieve from the accident scene. Meaning other things like phones and watches, people walijizawadi. Very unfortunate. That's the front page of the People Daily.
All right. Good. Take a look at now getting into the cartoons now.
Yes, without the physical papers, it's a bit tricky, but I do have the cartoon on page, now which page is this? But the cartoon on the Daily Nation. I do have the cartoon on the Daily Nation, and let me just confirm which page. Okay.
Okay.
This one, okay, let me just paint a picture of what it is. It's a graveyard. And we do have a caricature of the CS for Agriculture in one of the grave, digging a fresh grave. And on the tombstone, it's written RIP fake fertilizer. But in the same graveyard, there are so many other tombstones, which include poison sugar scam, poison sugar, edible oil scam, Kemsa scandal, and many others that have not even been named, meaning that probably the attempt is to bury all these scandals and watu wengi hawatakuja kuelewa what really happened. And that's a cartoon on the Daily Nation. I don't know if we have one for the Standard or the People Daily.
Yes, for the Standard, there you have it. It's
Yes.
party politics, and it takes you back to the story of Adam and Eve. And they have the proverbial Eve here, looking at the chungu and, or rather that fruit there, matters public funds, and there's a snake. And this snake is written, I think cabinet, is it?
Principal
secretaries, yes. And there's
So it is the PSs were enticing people to tenderpreneurs to actually eat the fruit that is the public funds. You know, once you eat that fruit, everything changes. That's when you realize you're naked.
Oh, yes. And today you'll be talking about war on graft.
War on graft is always a discussion.
You know, and finally, let's take a look at People Daily, Stanu's Tech. This is on page 10. Has to do with the doctor's strike, a very humongous tree written, the doctor's strike. Quite a number of axes have tried to have it down, but have failed. And the government having a new axe and probably thinking that
A power saw.
the power saw might be the solution. Thinking there must be a way out.
Oh, there must be. There must be. Today marks the 42nd day of the doctor's strike. We'll be looking at some of these discussions and a lot more with my panelists on State of the Nation. This morning, we'll be having David Olesankok, member of the East Africa Legislative Assembly, in studio. Angela Ongeshi, Program Officer, Public Accountability, TISA, will also be joining us. We're hoping that Martin Moshisho, Deputy Governor Kajiado, will also make it to the panel, as well as Farah Maalim, MP Dada. Do stand by for that conversation, of which you can be part of through our social media pages on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya.
Oh, yes.
Later on,
we get into relationships from around 8 a.m., getting into, all right, this is matters, all right, we'll definitely be having it on our socials. I realize I just don't have it here. But basically getting into matters relationships and talking about how matters, do you really have, when is the right time to move in with your significant other, but when is the right time to move in with your partner? And then later on, we get into Tasty Wednesday with Chef Belinda Rotich. Stick around to know which meal we'll be cooking for you.
all right, let's take a break. We'll be back with more.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi, tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na Nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus niko niwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika
The title on the poster is War and Graft, but the headlines speak of a lot more that we need to talk about. This morning we're privileged to have in studio Angela Wangeshi, Immediate Right Program Officer, Public Accountability, TISA, and David Ole Sankok, MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly. It's good to have you in studio.
The global geopolitician.
Yes, the one and only.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
Azad.
We are hoping that two more gentlemen will be joining the panel. But before that, I'd like us to focus on one story that cuts across the region. It's on the front page of the Standard. At the bottom, the images of flooding causing havoc. And this on the Standard, the images are from Mobina Estate in Joska, where you can see houses submerged in flood waters. If you look at the front page of the Daily Nation, more images down there. Underwater, Kenyans in agony amid heavy flooding. And we can see images of an apartment block deep in water. And these are this 360 degrees estate in Syokimau. Elsewhere, Supercare apartments in Ruaka and Kiambu County, images of people trying to salvage their property from such houses. More images of flooding on the front page of the Star. And if my director can help me with this, very interesting images. Kenyans stranded as rains batter country, flooding persists. And you can see an image there of someone dressed in a suit riding on a boat just to make it to work. And this is a situation. The situation is very similar even in Tanzania. You look at the front page of the Mwananchi. Mvua zaleta majanga zaidi, serikali yatenga bilioni 1. Pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti la Mwananchi kule Tanzania. It is also the big story on the Citizen still in Tanzania, and one massive image of the kind of flooding that we see in Tanzania. They talk about urban planning, drainage inadequacies, fueling flooding. And let's start from there. A lot can be blamed on the authorities over errors of commission or omission. But I think different. I think this is general bad manners that has caused a lot of these problems. I don't know if you agree, Angela, that many people have engaged in construction works that have defied and blocked waterways generally, leading to flooding, because water will always find a way. Yes, what do you think?
I would like to first agree, because we have a lot of indiscipline, even the way we handle our day-to-day business. Recently, I went to the market and I decided to buy a watermelon. So I eat my piece of watermelon, then I ask the vendor, so where is your dustbin? Shamelessly, they tell me, you can drop it. And there was a drainage. And they tell me, just drop it, the water will drive it away. And that's how we are behaving. And not just in Kenya. I don't know about other places, but I've seen it in our country. We are very careless. So we just drop our garbage everywhere, we build everywhere, we block waterways. Of course, we have issues. We've been talking about climate change and global warming, but what are we doing about it? I think it narrows down to our individual conduct, because we don't care about, I think we just go along with our businesses, then we say, maybe County Council, Kanjo will come and clean but who cleans in your house?
Exactly.
Is that how we handle our business in our houses? Clearly not. Okay. But we've left that responsibility to I don't know who, and we really need to think about it. I hope we get to learn. I hope this tragedy gets some sense into our daily lives, and we really need to change.
Okay. Bwana Ole Sankok, very many Kenyans rarely blame themselves when such things happen. We're quick to point fingers at the authorities, yet most of this, as Angela correctly mentioned, some of the small misdemeanors, littering, dumping garbage where we shouldn't, putting up fences along waterways, is what is resulting in this. We look at some residential estates like Garden Estate here. It looks like it has been built along waterways where people have erected perimeter walls. Is it right to continue blaming the authorities when Kenyans themselves are definitely misbehaving?
Thank you, first of all, for having us here. And I will greet all Kenyans who are watching us today. And the point is very clear, and I think Angela have put it very well, that we point fingers at the authorities. 4 of those fingers are pointing at you, because we cause all these problems. And I want to advise Kenyans that this is the right time now to buy those plots. They call it ploti makuta makuta. It is the right time now to know which one is Makuta and which one is Maji, because you have seen how it is flooding. But you can imagine Nairobi is a city of almost 5 million residents. If we go by what Angela have said, if everybody of us throw a piece of polythene bag or a piece of plastic bottle, then we have every day 5 million plastic bottles along our drainage system. And you are blaming the authorities that they are not collecting garbage. Did the garbage drop from heaven? You drop it yourself. Who did you think will pick for you? Supposing all of us Kenyans behave well and don't throw those garbage along our streets, then the waterways will be open. You are talking about unclogging the waterways. Who clogged the waterways? If you go to Rwanda today, Kigali, you will never see a single plastic bottle along the way. Even chewing gum. If you chew your gum, you know where to go and put it. You can't throw on the streets. There are street cameras everywhere. You throw a chewing gum, of course, the vehicle that you are traveling in, or if you are there, then the police will know and you will be charged for that. So, and over a period of time.
That because we're seeing something similar in Tanzania, and this is the front page of the Citizen. Are we saying that Tanzanians and Kenyans are generally behave
Tanzania.
Or what is the issue with Tanzania? Are we sharing the same problems?
And don't say Tanzania, say the United Republic of Tanzania, because you know Zanzibar is also there.
Okay.
You know, being a member of East Africa.
Yes, I know you understand.
We have to become a bit diplomatic. So they have set aside around 1 billion, but Kenyans should not think that it is 1 billion Kenya shillings. It is 1 billion Tanzanian shilling. We translate to 50 million Kenya shillings, because you have to divide it by 20. Okay. So I think Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, and even the Republic of South Sudan, we are not learning from Rwanda, a very tiny country, very small country, with no source of other income apart from attracting tourists. Have decided to make their city the cleanest in the world, and by using that cleanliness, they are attracting even tourism. They don't have Masai Mara, they don't have Serengeti, they don't have all these natural resources, but they're able to maintain their country simply by making it a tourist destination, by making it clean. Okay. We can also make our city, the city in the sun, and our country by just making sure that you don't point fingers at the authority that they are not unclogging drainages while it is you clogging the drainages. Okay. But generally, as farmers, as we thank God for the rains, we pray for more so that we'll be comfortable. But we can feed the nation.
But even in areas, agricultural areas, and even pastoralist areas like Narok, where you come from,
yes,
floods do cause quite some damage as well.
Yeah, but the damage is small as compared to the benefit that we'll reap from the rains. Okay. Because, you know, currently all cows are surely very happy. Yeah. And you know, when cows are happy, pastoralists are happy as well.
But coming back to this conversation, even as we point fingers at ourselves as a general members or the wananchi, the authorities too cannot escape blame. Looking at some of the images we see in areas like Syokimau, which may not necessarily be Nairobi, but especially when it comes to construction of buildings and the permits given to such construction. The other day we had the governor of Nairobi talking about allowing buildings, high-rise buildings, to go as high as 25, 75 floors. And one wonders, can this city accommodate that kind of high-rise buildings? Do we have proper structures for drainage and sewage on the ground before we start talking about that high-rise buildings? It is the same county administration that has been allowing people to build on waterways. And something interesting, some years back, one of the governors who was caught in some property trouble even suggested that a waterway could be diverted to go around his property. That is a problem we're talking about when administrators actually think that it is proper to block waterways. Angela.
And you see, the leaders we elect are a reflection of the Kenyan citizens. So for such statement to come from a leader, clearly it narrows down to one, the personality of that person. And I believe that's the problem we are having with our leadership, because one, we have buildings that have been built in areas that they shouldn't. We have had even, there are spaces that cannot handle the capacity of the building. So we see high-rise buildings in areas where probably the systems are not even set for such kind of a population. Nairobi is a big city. So we've seen estates cropping up, and I've seen what happens is the buildings crop up, and then later we start now rushing, installing sewage systems, and you see the reverse should have happened. There's planning, urban planning. So that should be planned, install the sewage systems before you even start approving the building of such houses. And I think that's the problem we are having, that the one in charge of such roles do not take them seriously. I think we even had building collapsing even before the rains. Then you ask yourself, who approved? Who are these people in charge of such projects? So I think this is a collaborative effort, and anytime a stakeholder does not take their responsibility seriously, we get into serious problems. Anytime people bribe their way around getting these permits, we get into problems. And I believe this is what is happening. It's a system. So we have leadership who want probably, allocation of the permits and all that. Then of course we also have, like we are saying, Kanjo, for instance. I believe something is not happening. So there's someone who is in charge of ensuring that the draining system is working. There's someone in charge of approving the right buildings for such places. And there's this other citizen who just wants to invest and make their money. So when the system is not working properly, we get into such problems. So that's where we come about graft, because someone paid someone some money to be allowed to build where they shouldn't. Someone was paid to go clear the drainages. They didn't do their work. We get into problem.
And it's an issue of political expediency. You see, I remember a time when the former governor of Nairobi demolished quite a number of structures along riparian reserves in Nairobi. And once that individual left office, those buildings came back, and they're very visible from the road. How can we even talk about it?
Fred, even the one who demolished was the one who had retrogressive thinking. And I think majority of us Kenyans have this mediocrity kind of thinking. Yes? You are talking about riparian areas. Do you know where English Point in Marina in Mombasa is located? How far is it from the ocean? It's actually above the ocean. Do you know where Fort Jesus is located? You know, my friend? Do you know where in New York is located as in relationship to the river? Do you know where the United Nations headquarters is located? Literally above the river. Is it a river? The river. So I think sometimes as Kenyans, we are very good in giving excuses. And an excuse is a justification of a failure. So most Kenyans, we are failures because we talk about riparian areas. More than 100 years ago, Egyptian built the Suez Canal, literally connecting two seas. Here we are demonizing what Waitito said when he said we can change the channels of water. 70% of the world is occupied by water. It is only 30% that is land. We can't again live.
Isn't that part of the problem, that if we attempt to change the waterways,
we can't live again. We can't leave 30% that is left for us again for waters. We have to find a way of living and actually reclaiming land from the waters. You know, Netherlands or Holland is literally under sea level. They reclaim the whole of it. Do you know Dubai?
You've seen what happened to Dubai the other day?
No, it was just a torrential rain, but for some time it was just a traditional. But
Ole Sankok, we cannot fight nature.
My friend, we can't fight nature, but God gave us authority above nature.
Let me get
we have
clear.
to build to stay.
What do you suggest we should do? Because water will still find its way.
One, of course, we have the waterways. Don't clog them. We clog them by littering the waterways. We can have people who are building. If a building is approved, it must be approved not along the waterway, but even if it is closer to the waterways. I've told you, English Point Marina is literally.
So you don't believe in leaving riparian reserve?
Riparian reserve, we can channel our waters to be able to be flowing in a manner that it will not be blocked. And if we don't clog our sewages, we can't. And you see what you people are saying is that Sakaja approved the high-rise building of up to 25-story building. Do you know New York have story building, residential areas? That is up to...
With a corresponding sewerage system.
With a corresponding sewage
yeah, that's
there's no problem.
That's a concern in Kenya, that we do not have a corresponding sewerage infrastructure to accommodate that kind of building.
So we should be talking about building the sewerage system, not demolishing Sakaja.
Okay. Because it's an issue of urbanization, and this is a question now.
Yes. Because how do we accommodate our population?
How come we have failed in managing the urban centers in Nairobi, in Kenya generally? Because yes, you say other urban areas are really progressive and have managed to handle this. What is the issue that we've continuously failed to manage the urban settlements in Kenya?
We give excuses. It is now the issue of we don't want high-rise buildings. So that where do this population live in? We must have the high-rise building. So where we should be pointing at is drainage system. Okay. Where we should be pointing at is not clocking our drainage system.
We've had successive administrations managing these urban centers. And it's not just Nairobi, it's Nakuru, Kisumu, Mombasa, and other areas. We've had successive administrations administering these areas. Yet we do not see any progression in as far as generation or creation of proper sewage or drainage infrastructure. So what is the issue, one may wonder? Is it that leaving management of urban areas to politicians is not working?
Do we first of all have the drainage system? That is the question.
An old drainage system.
Is it being clogged or it is not being clogged? Who is clogging the drainage system? That is the question you should be asking us.
If you look at areas like Roysambu, Githurai, these are urban settlements that have come up in the last 10, 20 years or so without proper drainage systems. All these buildings have been approved by the city county of Nairobi. Is it because we're leaving it to politicians? Do you think probably that if at all it was a different establishment running an urban center like Nairobi, that probably the management would be better?
I want to, it's not about who is managing, it's about how are they managing it. So if we get leadership that is keen, that has interests of the citizen at heart, I don't think this would be happening, because you first set the systems. So I don't think we can do away with, the politicians, but we need politicians and leadership that has integrity issues, that have interest of the citizen at heart, so that we do not have substandard systems being put in place, because I believe this is what is hurting us. We have substandard systems, and as a result, we are seeing what we are seeing now. So let us, I believe a citizen has a role to play, but their leaders have a bigger role to play, because I don't know who approves these things. I'm a citizen. I would want to see it done, but I'm not in that position. Okay. So whoever is in that position, let them take their role seriously, and let us just do what is supposed to be done.
And that question stems from this headline on the front page of the Standard. Wrote at City Hall, you are a letdown. UDA MPs warn Sakaja. This is their own member from their own party. The story is on page 10. They accuse him of failing in so many issues. Garbage collection, issues of urban management and all these things. I can see you chuckling. Are you saying they are wrong in blaming the governor who's tasked with this job?
Why are you pointing at politicians?
I'm not the one. This is a headline on the front page and it's MPs from UDA party, your party.
Who failed to collect the cabbage?
Isn't it the role of the county government?
Is it the role of Sakaja?
He is a governor.
Don't we have departments in City Hall? Don't we have departments in our city?
Where does the buck stop?
Do we have professionals?
Where does the buck stop?
No, it's not the issue of where the buck stop. You know, we have to point the finger at the right person. Cabbage is not collected in the city. Who drew that cabbage in the first place? Yes? Who mismanaged the cabbage? It is a citizen of the city of Nairobi.
So we are wrong in blaming them.
We first of all blame them. And then next, we blame the department responsible. Because a politician will come and go. The politician was elected by the same citizens. So if the politician is bad, then it's a reflection of the citizen of the city of Nairobi. Again, it is not literally the politician will come and collect cabbage. There is that department. Why don't we blame the department? Is it very difficult to say the department which is led by citizen of Nairobi city? Fred Dimuli, he may be your brother who is in charge of cabbage collection. You don't blame him. You will blame now Sakaja.
Okay, what kind of blame should be put on the governor's desk? Are we saying he's totally blameless in all these issues, in management of the city?
No, he's not totally blameless.
What should we blame him for? Or what questions should we put to the governor?
The questions that we should be put to the governor: how have you used the resources that have been allocated to you? How much have you allocated to cabbage collection? Then, from there, we can now blame him.
Okay.
And this is done in collaboration with county assembly.
Okay.
So how much have been allocated to?
It is a very interesting headline on the Standard that you have let us down. UDA now tells Sakaja of a rot at City Hall. And these are lawmakers led by Dagoretti South MP John Kiarie, better known as KJ, and invited investigative authorities to the City Hall to probe alleged wanton graft. So yes, there is indeed corruption, and these are members of the UDA party pointing this out.
That is correct now. Wanton graft. Yes. How have you used the money we have allocated to the governor?
Okay.
That is okay.
Let us take a break. We'll be back to talk about this and a lot more as we focus more on the war against graft. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
to finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
nature,
Yes.
to the disaster, because we have to compete with nature. You think the Thika superhighway, we're competing with nature because we are competing with time. We want to move
We're not
faster.
complementing nature. David Ole Sankok, MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly, is in studio. Angela Wangeshi, Program Officer, Public Accountability at TISA, is also in studio. And we continue with this conversation. Today we're focusing on issues to do with graft. And I want us to start off with a cartoon on page 15 of the Daily Nation. And it mirrors a cemetery setup where we do have a caricature of the CS in agriculture digging a grave with a tombstone written RIP fake fertilizer. In the same graveyard, we have other two tombstones like the edible oil scam, Kemsa scandal, poisoned sugar scam, and others. And this is indicative of the fact that many of these scandals have been buried. Rarely do we get to the bottom of them, and even what we are experiencing now, we look like we are set to bury the same and move forward without proper scrutiny. Let's start from there, Angela. So much has been said about the fertilizer scandal. And every year, there's always a scandal that makes it to the front pages. There have been calls for the resignation of this cabinet secretary. There have been calls for the sacking of the same, and as well as other officers involved in this. But that is not happening. And it looks set, like, according to this cartoonist, we're just going to bury the same and forget it and move on. This is how we're treating every case of corruption in this country. Question is, have we lost the war on corruption? Do you feel we've lost it?
I feel we are losing it, but I don't think all is lost, because one thing about corruption, it's not an accident. Unlike how we are saying probably climate change and global warming, corruption is well planned, premeditated, actually some resources go into implementing some of these things. So when you see it is something that is choreographed. So the reason I'm saying we are losing is how we are handling it. The cartoon here puts it very well, but I think we are burying, but it's like we are planting. So unlike when you bury, you forget about it. This one, when you plant, you will harvest the fruits. And this is what is happening. So when I say we are losing it, if we do not change how we are handling these corruption cases and the graft and the scandals that we are having, it will grow into a bigger problem. It's like a habit. It starts very small, then you cannot stop it. Then you start enjoying it. Then it becomes your personality. So I think the problem we are having is how we are handling these cases. Anytime, I think as human beings, when we know there are no consequences, I mean, what will stop? And I believe even for this, someone benefited. So there are no consequences of your indiscipline or your mismanagement of these funds, but then someone else is benefiting. But the question is, who is benefiting? So I think we really need to sit down and strategize on how we go about dealing with corruption, because if we continue this way, it's going to be a pandemic. It's going to be like cancer, the way it just...
Yes. And Bwana Sankok, on this issue of the fake fertilizer, one would have expected at least some visible signs of anger from the president. The fertilizer subsidy program was one of his flagship projects.
Yes.
Anyone messing around with that should attract the wrath of the president. Yet we have not seen that kind of reaction from him. We've not even seen him cracking the whip on this issue. That alone communicates something different, and hence the question, are we losing the war on graft? We're not seeing even the president leading from the front and saying, no, this cannot happen on a flagship project that is so dear to my heart, you cannot dare do that.
You know, I don't know what you people of the furthest state want, or what really Kenya wants. When the president came out and said, mambo ni matatu, for those who are corrupt, you people said, no, the president have mentioned some things to do with going to jail, going to heaven. This guy want to kill Kenyans. You know, when again he let the DCI some leeway, independent institution, to investigate and crack the whip, because I'm sure some people have already been taken to court. There's a court cases, some court cases are going on the issue of fake fertilizers. You want again the president to come out with a sword. You know, there was a time you were saying, he's saying he sword sio ya kukata mboga. Again, you want him to come out. How? How forceful do you want him to come out?
We saw the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta fires a number of cabinet secretaries on allegations of corruption very early into his tenure as president. Are we likely to see anything
How early?
that?
Was it within 1 year? No, of course.
Or is it an issue of time?
No, it's not an issue of time. It is an issue of allowing investigation authorities to come up with what is the real cause of this fake fertilizer issue. And we are not letting this fake fertilizer go just like that. And that is why there are people who are answerable. Because if you fire the cabinet secretary is not involved in procurement. There is the procurement department and there is the KEBS, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, that approve that this fertilizer is of standard. And the president cannot smell that this fertilizer is good, this one is bad. And that's why there are those independent institutions that are supposed to approve.
It is the weight of his proclamations and his declarations. Does it really matter when the president says mambo ni matatu? Should we expect any kind of consequence when he says, I will do this? He made that declaration.
Yes, of course.
Have we seen any consequence of that?
If people are in court, answering court cases of how this fake fertilizer, including officers from KEBS, how did you approve this fertilizer, which is substandard? How did you approve it? You know, we have been fighting the wrong people. We have been pointing fingers at the wrong places. And that is why we have never been able to win the war against graft. This time around, the Kenya Kwanza government want to point fingers at the right place. The right place in the issue of fake fertilizer is the procurement department. It is KEBS. How did you approve it? If we fought the right people during the time of poisonous sugar, we will not be fighting those innocent shopkeepers, those innocent retailers. Because how did the poison sugar land in our port, travel all along the roads with all the police, with all the cabs approving and allowing it to enter the country, and finding itself into the shelves of those guys in Kikomba, finding the shelves in those guys in River Road? How then do you come and fight
there's
those
something called
characters?
political responsibility.
So,
and one may wonder, because you've defended probably the position of the governor against accusations when it comes to issues about mismanagement of Nairobi County, and you say we should not be blaming the governor. Now you're saying even the CSS should not be held accountable.
No.
What is their role in all this?
I'm saying the CSS, we should ask them. We have the issue of fertilizer. We wanted to have fertilizer that is cheap in this country. We allocated you funds to give us fertilizer. But at the end of the day, the government itself cannot import. We have to procure services of private business people to supply the fertilizer. Now, the procurement process and the approval is through KEPS and the procurement department in the ministry. Why do you fight the wrong person? We will tell this CS, did you allocate the money that we gave you to the issue of fertilizer? So if yes, then we go to who approved this fake fertilizer.
Okay. And as you speak, I can see Angela just shaking her head.
Yes, because you want to point fingers at the wrong person.
Yes, I feel when he says we are pointing fingers at the wrong person, then I ask myself, then why do we have leaders? When you're a leader, you have to take responsibility because you have been elected to represent these citizens.
Oh, that one was appointed.
Yes, you are appointed. I mean, you're in leadership. So you have a responsibility to represent and to speak on behalf, represent the interest of the people. So if you're not doing that, why is it that you cannot take responsibility? Because you are in charge of that department, so you are in charge of that system. The fact that you are in charge, you are being paid to do that job. So what is so hard with taking responsibility? Because when you take responsibility, you're able to question. Even now, your juniors, the people now, of course you delegate. You're not the one doing that, but you have put systems in place. You have delegated that to other officers. So if those officers are not doing their job, we shouldn't be going to those officers. We come to you because you are our representative. So you are responsible.
Fred.
Please take responsibility.
Fred.
And then we are able to follow up with the individuals.
Yes. Fred.
Fred, I use
listen.
the example of the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta. He fired the agriculture CS, Mwangi Kiujuri, because of something he was not happy
with.
Did
solve the problem. They did solve the problem. He did the wrong thing. And that is why even some of us parted ways. We parted ways with Uhuru Kenyatta because he was not doing the right thing. Now you are saying CS Linturi, for instance, is appointed to be head of the Ministry of Agriculture. He is paid by taxpayers' money. You want to tell me the head of KEPS is not appointed to head that department? You want to tell me the head of KEPS is not paid by taxpayers' money? And it is squarely lies on his door because it is KEPS that approve. What Linturi can do as our representative topmost manager there is to say who is to blame, not by pointing fingers, but saying, KEPS, look here, you have to check the standard of every item. That is why you are paid. You have to check the standard of this fertilizer. Does it meet the requirement? If you approve and it doesn't, then you are wrong. And that is why they are facing court cases. Again, the other department was the procurement department. Did you do diligence in terms of procurement? Those two departments are in court. So what do you want Linturi to do? To go and get hold of the head of KEPS and whip him like a child, or to take him to court? Okay. Have he taken him to court?
Where is the disconnect? Because now I think we've gone back to the issue of who is to blame. If I look back at the front page of the Taifa Leo yesterday, habari kuu pale ilikuwa inasema nchi ya vitu feki. Wahuni wamegeuza nchi ya Kenya kuwa jala kutupa kila aina ya bidhaa gushi. Kuna mbolea gushi, kuna mbegu ambazo ni fake, kuna degree ambazo ni fake, kuna wafanyakazi hewa, kuna illegal brews, kuna hata madawa fake. All this is down to corruption. And the question is, who is to blame? I think that's where we are.
Yes.
Because who should we hold accountable? Isn't it the leadership that was elected, and in that the president himself, that should be held accountable?
So the president should resign?
All these people
because of
fall under him. All these people fall under him. If at all he would make a declaration on the war against corruption, many people would listen to him. He is known to make declarations. And anyone appointed by him should be held accountable as well. And the president should be able to hold these people that he appointed and gave jobs accountable for all these things. When you have all these messes happening at the same time, and the question is, who is to blame? Aren't we losing the plot here, Angela?
And that's why, I mean, you're a leader yourself.
Yes.
And I think we are really, as Kenyans, that's the reason we go to the ballot. We elect our leaders. But then you see, we've even seen, I think sometime last year, so many cases were dropped. So this is, we've gone the whole process. Then we are saying, who is to blame? So we start. We go to the courts. And then it gets to a point, then these cases are no more. So they vanish. So then when we say we don't want to blame our leadership, then who else? Because even if we start the court cases, then they don't go anywhere. And you see, as if, for a citizen, we sit here, we say systems are in place. So I think the problem is the systems are not working.
What about the individuals tasked with this?
Yes, and then we say now, if the systems are not working, who is responsible for these systems that are not working? And I think if we start from that conversation, from that point, because making a declaration is fine, but following up to ensure that whoever was responsible for all that pays for what they have done. And I think we never get to that point. But the question is, why don't we get to that point?
I think we are lost on who should we ask this question.
Yes.
Let me take you back to the conference, the wage bill conference that happened last week, where the president and his deputy attended the final day of the conference. I think it was Wednesday.
Yes.
And that conversation was, I think, put on the back burner after this tragedy happened on Thursday. But back to that conversation, the issue of fake certificates came up. And the president made a declaration that he will ensure these people actually leave. And anyone who actually benefited from any payments using a fake certificate should be surcharged for the same. And remember when the deputy president stood to speak and he said, hii pengine tu ni wewe unaweza fanya, hakuna mtu mwingine. It is the same problem that even at the top of our country's leadership, we are lost on who should take charge of what.
Fred, you know, I want you to be practical enough. If we were to blame, for instance, the president for fake fertilizer.
No, we're not blaming the president, but
fake certificate. No, I was just giving you an example. Mm-hmm. Fake fertilizer, fake certificate, poisonous sugar, poisonous alcohol. Then the president will resign 50 times within a year. But then, because he is the one that bears the responsibility, we expect him to direct the ministry responsible for fake fertilizer to act, the ministry responsible for fake certificate to act, the ministry responsible for poisonous sugar to act.
Isn't that exactly what?
And then when he directs, we also expect the minister responsible to now dig in and see who bears the responsibility. For the case of fake fertilizer and even poisonous sugar, it is Kenya Bureau of Standards. How did you approve? It is a Kenya Port of Authority. if it is something that is important. How did you allow it?
Would you say to the suggestion by the Deputy President that when it comes to the fake certificates, only the President can actually take charge of that?
Yes, because he's the appointing authority for the Minister of Education. So he will direct the Minister of Education to act. The Minister of Education will direct.
Is that the only action that the President can?
Listen, which other action? You wanted him to resign? Fred.
No, we've not
if
said
today,
if
today you have a fake certificate and you applied the job here in TV 47, do we say the CEO responsible is the one who is responsible for allowing you to come with a fake certificate? No, it is you first of all with the fake certificate who will bear the responsibility. Again, where was this certificate issued? If it was River Road, we should also go for those characters in River Road. Yes, we will also go to the Human Resources Department here. Did you counter-check the degree of Fred Ndimuli that he claimed was issued by Nairobi University, that it was actually issued by Nairobi University?
Mine was issued by the University of Nairobi.
The University of Nairobi.
Yes.
So it is the responsibility. If we found that your degree is fake,
but
then it's the responsibility of the human resource.
At what point, if we go that way, will we ever be able to get to the
Yes!
Because the issue has always been, who's taking, where does the buck stop? Who's taking responsibility for this? As we say, because we will continue with the blame game. As you say, fine, CS Linturi is not to blame. Blame KEBS. The KEBS CEO or director may say, okay, fine, I'm not the one to blame. Blame the procurement guy. The procurement guy will say, okay, fine,
but surely
instruction came from a different place.
Surely,
so we blame him, not...
Ndimuli.
Will we ever get to the bottom?
Surely, Ndimuli. In the case of fake degree, do you want to blame Machogu because of a fake degree? Surely. So he should resign because of a fake degree.
No one has called for his resignation.
But should we blame him?
Who is going to act on it? Probably the expectation by Kenyans is, who is going to act on this issue of fake certificates? Because the Deputy President said no one else can apart from the President.
And I've told you why he said that. He said that because the appointing authority of the Minister of Education is the President. The President will direct the Minister of Education to investigate, and then
even the Deputy President would have directed the same.
No, he's not the appointing authority. Have you forgotten? He's the principal assistant to the President. That is his responsibility. According to the Constitution, do you want to give him other responsibility other than the ones that were given by
Angela? Do you ever get to the bottom of this, given the kind of sentiments by?
No, I think when he says, when you're in authority, please take up your responsibility. So you have the authority to say, you are responsible, so we start from you. And I think until we have that, because just saying in a blanket statement that we will deal with those who are, say we will deal with so and so, then we start from there. Because the moment we identify who is to blame, then we are able to start from somewhere. But we can't just keep on saying, generally, we will, if we find, if we can't continue like that.
Let's look at it differently, and even away from the presidency. We've seen attempts by the EACC to go after former governors and even current sitting governors, and we've seen some very dramatic arrests of former governors and their spouses in the recent past, over the last 1 year or so, over mega graft, billions of shillings. But we've seen such moves before. And we rarely, up till now, we've not seen a single former governor convicted of corruption. And one wonders, what is it beyond the drama? EACC should be an independent agency, able to pursue this. Back to the same, who are we going to turn to? If at all, even the agency assigned that duty of actually going after these people. Up until today, not a single conviction on corruption.
Now you are on the right track. You are talking about EACC being an independent institution. So who do we blame for those governors that have been accused of graft, mega graft? Why are they not behind bars? Now we have at least somewhere to blame. You can now blame those in authority, those leaders. All over the period of time, we have been blaming leaders, elected leaders. EACC is not elected.
EACC will say, now, we brought this case to the courts. The courts will say, okay, ODPP did not give us enough evidence. And then in all that pointing fingers, no one
because
gets convicted.
that is now the right place to go. Because, and that is why what I was still saying of fake certificates. We may be having 100,000 fake certificates in Kenya. The president cannot go to individuals. These 100,000 fake certificates, some of them are here in TV47. This is a private company. The president will not come into it. It is EACC to take up the matter. It is DCI to make sure that investigations are done properly, and it is a court now to declare that this person is guilty of a fake certificate, and then sentence the person. The president cannot sentence the person. The Minister of Education cannot sentence the person. So you have not come to the right track.
Aren't we just going round in circles here, Angela? Because I'm wondering, we don't seem
go
to be
straight. Now tell the president to
getting to the bottom
to sentence.
we don't seem to be getting to the bottom of this because failure to get any conviction, and this is 10, 13 years of devolution now.
Yeah.
We have a litany of cases that are yet to get anywhere. When we keep on going round and round in circles, aren't we back to the same question? Are we losing the war on graft?
Yeah, and I think we should also, apart from, of course, we are seeing, the blame game and all that, but I think we also need to, even now, deal with the root causes. Now, even before those things start, how do we even prevent? How do we arrest it before it gets to some of those levels? Because one, I think we've even seen in counties, for instance, I think devolution at the moment, there's a lot of corruption happening, there is a lot of graft happening at the county levels. And we have seen, you find an officer, a very high level officer, and they are accused with, I think I saw in Kwale, 5 brothers, for instance. I think we need to get to that level where now, even citizens themselves in those counties, they start holding their leaders accountable at those grassroots levels.
If at all the citizens themselves are not disillusioned by the lack of convictions. Okay, time for us to take a break. We'll be back to continue this conversation.
Fred, just a minute. Just a minute. We should also thank the leaders for really fighting corruption, more than EACC and more than DCI and more than the court.
How have the leaders fought corruption?
Do you know Songo was bundled out of the office because of graft by the Senate? Those are leaders. Mm-hmm. Do you know Waititu was bundled out of the office because of county MCS and the Senate? So the leaders have done their part. It is now the court to do their part of those corruption. Or you wanted the Senate to sentence Waititu. Mm-hmm. You wanted the Senate to sentence Songo. No, the Senate have done their part. Those are leaders.
Okay.
They are perfect.
All right. We're talking about the war on graft in Kenya and where is it that we lost the plot and are we losing the fight against corruption? This is the Morning Cafe. Let's take a break now.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus nikoniwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee. Soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka
The accident comprehensive.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking.
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
All right. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47. My name is Fred Ndimuli. You're still here with David Ole Sankok, MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly, and Angela Wangeshi, Program Officer, Public Accountability at TISA. We continue with this conversation about corruption and the place of leadership, political leadership in the fight, the war against corruption. Now, I am reminded of a few months ago when the president had an issue with the judiciary. And he mentioned directly that there are a number of corrupt judges, corruption within the judiciary. Now, that was a very heavy declaration by the president, but it did not go beyond that. After the declaration by the president, everything halted. We've not seen any conviction or any inquiry into any case of corruption against any judge after that. And that, again, leaves a lot of questions, more than answers. Once the president says there's corruption within the judiciary, then takes a step back and moves on to other things, what does that mean?
Yeah, and I think that's what we are lacking, these follow-ups. So if an accusation is made, can we have an inquiry, follow-ups, until that person is either proven guilty or not guilty? Because I think that's where we don't go beyond accusing. We just accuse, complain, and leave it at that. But how about, like we said, there should be consequences. And until we get to that level where people are held accountable for their misdoings, people suffer the consequences of their actions, I don't think we will ever get anywhere. Because the moment we see a person prosecuted because of they did A, B, C, D, I believe even those who are probably on their way or planning to do it, they will think twice. But if we keep saying, we suspect, we think, or we have seen this happen, but then what? And I think the what is what needs to really be acted upon. Okay. People need to take responsibility and they need to suffer the consequences of their actions. But until we get to that point, I don't think we will ever.
And Bwana Sankok, the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta famously declared semblance of helplessness when he asked the country, munataka nifanye nini, when he came to the issue of corruption. And yet he's the one who told us that we're losing about 2 billion shillings to corruption every day. Now, are we saying that we are the same position of helplessness with this new administration when the president comes out and says, not suspecting, says there are corrupt judges in the judiciary, but after that fails to proceed to actually ensure that this corrupt individuals are actually prosecuted or at least taken through an inquiry?
Proceed how?
There are
anyway,
Fred,
I want to tell Kenyans that when you say leaders...
No, I'm asking about the president himself. He made a declaration with regard to corruption in the judiciary.
Fred, just listen. When Kenyans refer to leaders, it's not only political leaders. There are also leaders who are not political, like the head of judiciary, like the head of legislative, because there are 3 arms of government. There is the executive, whose head is the president. There is the judiciary, whose head is the chief justice. And there is legislative, whose head is the speaker of the National Assembly. These 3 arms of government are very independent. The president pointed out that there is corruption in judiciary. Just the way Kenyans point out that there is corruption within the police department. There is corruption within county government A or county government B. The president also pointed out who was to proceed and form the commission of inquiry. It was the Chief Justice.
Against who?
Against the judges.
Which judges? Because the president said there are corrupt judges, but failed to mention any. It's a disconnect between the country's leadership and the declarations made on corruption and the follow-up after that.
Now,
because the president has mechanisms of ensuring that anyone.
Which mechanism?
Well, he has
in terms of
to take someone to the Judicial Service Commission.
Fred, let us read our constitution very well. These are very independent institutions. The president have no power against a member of parliament.
Are you saying that no member of the general public can raise a question against a member of the judiciary who's found to have engaged in any malpractice? I think that is allowed before the Judicial Service Commission.
Yes.
Any member of this country can do that.
And it is a Judicial Service Commission.
Are you saying the president can do the same?
He raised the issue. He said there is corrupt judges who was to take now and proceed and investigate if it is true what the president have said. And Fred, sometimes... When you
mentioned it wasn't a suspicion, it was a declaration.
No. Sometimes, Fred, you people speak in both sides of the mouth. When the president said that, some of you say that you want to gang the judiciary. The judiciary should be independent. Last time we were saying the president is in bed with legislative arm of government, is in bed with members of, is in bed with parliament. Surely, how?
Around the same time, around the same time this happened,
yes.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua raised an issue against a particular judge and named this judge.
Of course.
And was going to institute a case against this judge at the Judicial Service Commission. At least that is how it's supposed to be done. So when the president comes and declares there is corruption in judiciary and leaves it at that, isn't that failing the country?
No, the president declared there is corruption in the judiciary. His deputy mentioned a specific judge and a specific case and decided that on, I remember it was on Thursday, I'll go to the Judiciary Service Commission to launch my complaint. What did the Kenyans say? No, you are revenging because, you know, when you are a member of parliament, you are taken to this judge and you are 200 million, you are after 200 million.
Are you saying that the president and his deputy are falling prey or are falling into the temptation of appeasing the masses by failing to pursue corrupt judges?
No. The only thing that the president can do to a corrupt judge is to take the complaint to the Judiciary Service Commission.
And that is
if you take your complaint to the Judiciary Service Commission, it is a private matter that you will take. It is not a public matter. Do you want to say that no Kenya have ever complained of a specific judge in the Judiciary Service Commission? Today you are not aware how many complaints the president have taken to the Judiciary Service Commission. You are not aware how many complaints the deputy president have taken. You are not even aware how many I have taken myself.
Have you taken any?
Specific judges.
Have you taken any?
Have you taken yourself any?
I have no complaint against any.
You have no complaint? Me, I've taken it is a private matter they are investigating. And they say it is subject to discuss something that the matter that is before the court. And in fact, to discuss something that is before Judicial Service Commission, I'm telling you, my friend, they will come for me here.
Angela, aren't we still going around in circles that no one wants to take responsibility on pursuing matters to do with corruption? That not even the senior-most officer in this government is going to move a step forward in fighting corruption, even when he declares that there is corruption here.
Yeah, and I think, like we've said, we really need systems and we need follow-ups.
But the systems
and to see the end.
The Judicial Service Commission is ready to receive any complaints
of
any corrupt judges.
They have received.
According to what we heard, the president is yet to lodge any complaint against any judge. He has mechanisms to do that. He could use even other people to file formal complaints against any judge over corruption. How come you're not seeing that? Because yes, the president, and we cannot take any declaration from the president lightly, that there are corrupt judges within the judiciary. Then after that, everything goes quiet. That means if I go before the court, I could be going before a corrupt judge. Is it responsible for the president to actually say there are corrupt judges in the judiciary and leave it at that?
No, I don't think it is right. It should not be left at that. They should, like you're saying, they should follow the right procedure. And I think what we also lack now we do not have information. We've a lot of, I think we are saying we lack transparency and accountability in what is happening. You see, like he's saying, it's private. So when we put that clause of it's private, then we block. And there's a lot of that. We've been trying to get information in.
Could be misleading the public by saying that any judge who goes before the Judicial Service Commission, it is a private matter. The Judicial Service Commission always makes these things public. The kind of judges we've seen paraded before the Judicial Service Commission, those sessions were public. And we've seen some of them dismissed by the same commission. So I think we could be misleading them.
No, we are not misleading. We are saying when you launch the complaint, you take the complaint to them. And then they tell you silence now from here onwards, we'll take up the matter. You don't come and discuss it in public until they make themselves because once you take a complaint, you'll give you the process. And I'm sure the president have taken his own complaint and any other person have taken their complaint. Once you launch a complaint, they say we will investigate. It remain now silent until they have concluded their investigation and summon the judge. That is when now it become public because it will be an inquiry. So until that time they have formed the inquiry commission, you will not say anything.
Okay. What about the number of cases withdrawn by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, especially with regard to fraud?
Blame the director.
Should we blame the director? The ODPP?
I think, yes, we should. And that's what we are saying. You see, public funds and fraud involving the public resources. I mean, when we use the word public, what do we say? What does that mean? It means it talks about that citizen. That citizen who the Constitution gives them the sovereignty. And I think it's very unfair for these citizens when it is clear that fraud has happened and then we cannot get to the bottom of who is responsible for this graft. And I think, like you're saying, it is wrong for withdrawal of some of these cases when it is clear that fraud happened, loss of public funds happened, and we can almost even see where around, what departments, who are in charge when that happened. And then we see these cases being dropped left, right, and center. It is very unfair.
Bwana Ole Sankok would want us to move on from that discussion, but we will not, Bwana Sankok, for a bit. The withdrawal of corruption charges against so many senior officials, some of them who ended up being appointed into senior cabinet positions. It leaves more questions than answers. And then the justification is always that ODPP presented the case, the DCI did not do their job. This finger pointing, are we not exacerbating a ping pong as a solution to fighting corruption? Once we get to a certain point, we say, no, it's this one who's failing us, it is the other person who's failing us, and that's the end of that case.
Fred, I picked something from you. You said some of them were appointed. Do you know it is the Constitution that say you are innocent until proven guilty? So nobody was sentenced to jail and he was picked by the president from jail and appointed to a ministry. Who is supposed to sentence? It's not the president. So you are innocent until proven guilty. The person that proves you guilty is the court. If the court have not proven you guilty, there is no mistake the president have done in appointing you when you are innocent until proven guilty. Fred, I told you, let us give credit to where it is due. Political leaders in this country have done a marvelous job.
When it comes to fighting corruption?
In terms of fighting corruption. They were finger pointing against Waititu. It was the political leaders who did the process and made sure that he's no longer the governor. It was the court that was supposed to take over and jail him. and sentence him and return public funds from his accounts. I'm not sure if they have done so. Songo was taken through the same process. The political leaders finished with their process. And the end product, you have seen. They did a marvelous job. They are saint in terms of fighting corruption. They fought it to the last of what the Constitution allowed them to do. It was now the EACC, it is now the issue of DCI, it is now the issue of courts. Why are you not telling the courts you have not done justice to Kenyans? Why are you saying political leaders?
Okay. But I think anytime a leader is mentioned in some of these fraud and graft cases, whether we are saying innocent until proven guilty, I think some of these appointments should just stop until we are done with those investigations.
Never.
No, I think that's what should happen.
That is a wrong idea.
No.
Shouldn't it be up to the person accused to ensure that they've been absolved of all blame?
Yes, and before that happens, no appointment should happen.
No.
I don't, because the moment...
Today, I can accuse you of stealing from me. So you want to say that you will not be appointed and you will be sacked from being a presenter here in TV 47 simply because I have word of mouth say that you have stolen from me?
If there's an active case against me in court,
yes,
and then it is withdrawn,
and then you'll be stopped,
and then a day later I'm appointed to a senior position, doesn't that raise questions?
It does. Which question? It does.
This person is still innocent. He was just an accused. I've told you, Fred, today I can accuse Angela here. He's a member of the civil society. I even don't know if this civil society are really supported by local, because some of these civil society who are supported by foreigners, then they end up now being loyal to their foreign paymasters, because you cannot bite the finger that feed you. But anyway, if today, Angela, if I accuse you of, for instance, molesting me sexually, yes, do you want to say that you will be sacked from your position?
I think
until you are proven guilty.
The fact that I am a leader, I have a responsibility.
So a leader is not a human being.
No, they are
have
human.
No right.
There are provisions on Chapter 6 of
they are human beings. They are human beings.
The provision of Chapter 6 are very clear. What does it state? Integrity. Mm-hmm. So what is what is there anything that
when
is lack of integrity because you are
cast on your character?
Yes.
There's an issue of integrity.
Yes.
No. Integrity is when you are not, when you lack integrity. If today anybody can accuse me, do you think that I lack integrity? If today I accuse Angela.
Okay.
When your integrity is questionable.
We should agree.
When it is questionable.
Yeah.
No. I mean, we withhold some of these appointments, we make sure, until we make sure you're clean. Because, yes.
No, I think
it is not
conversation.
No.
We are not losing the war on corruption. We have lost the war on corruption.
No. What Angela is saying is that you are guilty until proven innocent. But it is actually you are innocent until you are proven guilty.
As we come to the end of this conversation today, I think the war on corruption.
We have won the war against corruption.
We are helpless.
We have won the war against corruption.
We are just not willing to do the hard work.
No.
We just want to use shortcuts. Let us do the hard work and deal with corruption.
Angela, today, if somebody blame you and accuse you that you infringe into their right, you stole properties from them, and if I become the president, I will appoint you until you are proven guilty. If you are proven guilty, I will send you.
Isn't that part of the problem we're talking about?
Exactly, and these are our leaders, and that's what they are saying.
As we come to the end of this conversation, I'd like to mention one headline that features on the front page of the Standard, and this has to do with the doctor's strike. It enters day 42 today. Yesterday there was a deal that was presented by the government side to the doctors. Out of the 19 demands, I think they agreed on 18. But the issue of intern doctors, they seem to have disagreed on. That is one issue, and that means that the strike will go on. And I want your sentiments on this matter. I think in 2017 we saw this kind of strike go up to 100 days. And we saw the kind of suffering that Kenyans were taken through in the 3 months. This one has gone up to 42 days, and they seem to disagree on one thing. But I don't know what your sentiments are on this.
I think
the medical profession is supposed to be a calling. I'm from that profession. And seeing them in the streets while Kenyans are suffering, while Kenyans are dying because of salaries, I don't think it is something that is right, because it's supposed to be a calling. You know, when you are in a situation where you can save lives, it doesn't matter how much. Because can you really today give me the price of a human life? There is no price for a human life. There is no price tag. But to this issue, I think we have glorified one profession more than the others. If we did glorify mechanical engineering, Kenya today will be having the Nyayo Pioneer car. We'll be manufacturing our own cars. Nyayo Pioneer cars will be competing with Toyota brand of cars. But because we glorify so much one profession, then it become a mess in our country. And I think it is a high time we have a conversation that every graduate is a profession, like a professional, like engineers. Once they graduate, they also have that degree. They are also professional. They have not yet gotten their licenses. So the interns, we may decide as a country, let us decide to pay all interns 200,000 Kenya shillings. All interns. But we cannot have interns being paid more and other interns being paid less. There is no less degree than others. Lastly, all this boiled to the issue that I opposed when I was the chairman of student organization of Nairobi University in the year 2000. The introduction of parallel degree program, the commercialization of education, where an A without money is equivalent to a C because you study a degree that you can afford, where a C with money become an A because you can study medicine because you have the purchasing power of that degree of medicine. You can afford the millions that are paid by a parallel degree program. I oppose that one. I still think what the doctors are requesting and what other professionals will be requesting is the return on investment. They've invested in their education, they will ask for return in investment in terms of salaries. Again, we are talking about increase in salaries of civil servants, the doctors, the teachers, and others. We are speaking from both sides of the mouth. At the same time, we are asking for a reduction of the prices of food products. Unga, we are talking of the reduction of food. Do you know that food is a salary of somebody else? The salary of a farmer is that unga you are saying that the price should reduce. Unfortunately, you want to reduce the price of unga while these farmers have suffered, have bought fertilizer, have tilled the land, have done everything to have that unga in your table.
Okay.
Yet you want the price of fish, for instance, to remain at 1,000 per fish. 100 fish fill up a sack, meaning the sack of fish is 100,000. A sack of maize is less than 4,000. Surely, are we really balancing? These fish, you have not put fertilizer, you have not tilled that land, you just collect them free of charge.
And as we have this conversation, it is exactly 1 week to Labor Day. Conversations around public wage, minimum wage will come up, workers' rights will come up. It is coming only a week after the National Wage Conference, where it was declared that the public sector wage bill is too bloated and needs to be reduced. Now we have this discussion where the government has agreed on 18 out of 19 are the demands by doctors. And people may wonder, just looking at the numbers, are our doctors asking too much? And it is an unfair question to ask, but if we just look at the numbers, are we saying that probably they need to reconsider?
One, when you say it is wrong to say our doctors asking for too much, when we have seen the contested CAS positions recently just approved, and now we have them in the office. And I think we need to change this narrative that we are broke. we don't have money. I think we have a lot of resources, but we are mismanaging the resources.
Back to corruption.
Yes. And when we look at the health sector, I think it is one of the basic service that should be provided by the government. So when we see an issue like we are having now, when we talk health, we are talking about the lives of our citizens. So what is more important than a life of a human being? So when we can sit down and gamble with the health sector, the education sector, as we are doing now, I think we have misplaced priorities. So when it comes to, to leaders, to political positions, we have no problem. We can pay them whatever they want, but when it comes to basic services to be provided by the citizens, then we start saying this profession is, feeling themselves, this profession feels. But clearly, what is more important than health? What is more important than food for a citizen? So when we say we are pushing for reduction in food prices, I mean, that's a noble cause. So that should not be even up for debate. So what can we do better to ensure that this citizen has food on their table? What can we do better to make sure that this citizen access health facilities and health services at the least possible cost? Okay. I think this government needs to rethink their priorities. Let us put the citizen first. And that comes even to representation. How are we representing these citizens in parliament? How are we representing this citizen in leadership? And I think that is the root of our problems.
And I'm looking at a quote here on the front page of the Standard by the KMPDU Secretary General Dav Diatela. And he says, "Dear government, the doctors are saying that since you have publicly said that you consider to 18 of our 19 demands, kindly take back the 18 and give us the one." And that's the KMPDU Secretary General. Parting shots, anything you'd want to tell the Kenyans in the next 30 seconds? Angela.
It is important that we really, corruption, as we are saying, is a problem. It's all over. We are bribing our way to everything, to get education, to get services, to get everything. But I think, one, the citizen needs to be woke. We need to speak out. We need, of course, part of it is being patriotic citizens and doing what we are supposed to do, but we also need to hold our leaders accountable. Let us ask questions. Let us speak out, because it is taxpayers' money we are discussing. So let us fight for our rights. As we continue being responsible citizens, we also need responsible leadership. And it's a collaborative effort for everyone.
Angela, finally, Bwana Sankoko.
Yes, corruption is you and me. The government do business, but with the public. That contractor is a private citizen. If he's the one that is doing a shanty job, he's as corrupt as the guy who awarded that tender. So it is not only the government, it is all of us. Again, let us not say that political leaders are earning more. A political space is open for everybody. If you feel that wherever you are, as a professional, as a doctor, you are earning less than a politician, go to the field in 2027 and earn the more that they are earning, okay, instead of blaming.
David Ole Sankok, Member of Parliament, East Africa Legislative Assembly, and Angela Ongeshi, Program Officer, Public Accountability, TISA. Thank you so much for your well-considered opinions on this issue of the war on graft and others, and for your time at TV47. Asanteni sana. Now, let's focus on the ongoing heavy rains and consequent floods affecting different parts of the country. The staggering figures released by the Kenya Red Cross Society paint a grim picture of the extent of displacement, damage, and loss experienced by communities across the nation. With over 11,000 households displaced and 23 counties severely affected so far, the situation calls for a united effort to mitigate further harm. While natural disasters are often beyond human control, it is disheartening to observe the recurring pattern of blame shifting instead of proactive measures. Authorities must indeed address shortcomings in enforcing construction bylaws and safeguarding waterways to prevent future calamities. Meanwhile, citizens must refrain from irresponsible behaviors like littering, which obstruct drainage systems and aggravate flooding risks. Communities in flood-prone areas must also prioritize their safety by relocating to higher ground before disaster strikes. Waiting until after the fact to assign blame is not only futile, but also unjust to the countless lives and livelihoods affected. In the face of such adversity, it is crucial for all stakeholders to prioritize proactive measures over reactive blame games. It is vital for Kenya to invest in proper long-term planning to mitigate the impact of future adverse weather. Better urban planning that incorporates climate-resilient infrastructure, sustainable land use practices, and effective disaster preparedness is the way to go. Amid discussions of blame, planning, and response strategies, it is paramount to underscore that the preservation of life must remain the foremost priority.